The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York Met Baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The host and co-host, or the co-host and host, are both here, Marty Rose and Robert Cole. Gentlemen.
Hi, Ralph. Hi, Robert.
Hey. Ralph.
Hey.
How are you, Mert?
Good.
Yeah, what a week, huh? New York Mets. 7-1. I think this was the best start they had in their history, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
So, with that in mind, how about we tap glasses from our in toast from our respective abodes, far, far away from each other, but in our hearts we're in Queens on some level. So here's to them. I think it's going to be health that determines it because they seem absolutely solid. Start with you, Marty. Any impressions that you might pass on?
Well, I mean, from what we spoke about earlier, we were, I think we were coming down on the bullpen a little bit, but in the last few games, they've been looking terrific. I'm kind of shocked that Familia's looking a lot better than I thought he would.
Right.
He's getting a lot of work, and this Lugo and Gazelman combination for Longman is looking really good, very good.
Yeah.
So
it's an offshoot of starters staying healthy. Basically, it goes all the way down the line.
Right.
Getting two guys who competed last year for starting positions. They both started a number of games, just forced out by the health. And it looks like, for the first time in a long time, we're going to have, and I'm going to put this in quotes, the 5 aces, end quote, back together in the same rotation 5 games in a row. That has to go
because
down.
Wheeler is coming up to pitch on Wednesday.
Right.
So, I don't know who's being deactivated, but that's kind of surprising to me. But,
and Robles has been an incredible surprise. This guy has pitched fantastically.
Yeah, they say Dave Island saw something that he corrected, and the guy's been amazing.
Yeah, maybe the effects of having 2 pitching coaches, basically as managers or as pitching coaches, really helps. These guys have worked together before, and how cool it is. You wanted to note something, and this really was a coincidence about Gil Hodges, Robert.
Yes. Last week I meant to mention, and I forgot, because we were on the anniversary of Gil's death on April the 2nd. And ironically, his birthday was 2 days later on April 4th. So when Gil passed away, he was 2 days away from his 48th birthday. So those are 2 dates that I wanted to note. Gil's a big, big part of not only baseball history but Mets history with his management of the miracle team of '69, and many people feel that alone should get him elected to the Hall of Fame. And we're hoping this next go-round that he does get elected to the Hall of Fame. Because in my opinion,
no question about that. We'll talk about the injustice of him not already being in the Hall of Fame. on another show, but it's real. And I thought of something. Back when he passed away, we were at an age, the three of us, where mortality really was, you just expected to live to be 80. I mean, we didn't have an appreciation for mortality like we do today. And if you think about it, to die at age 48, how incredibly young that is. Looking back, how we look at it today, what a loss! What a loss for his family. What a loss for the Mets. Baseball, life itself. He was one of those guys, a war hero, a gentle, strong man, and someone that literally took that team to a championship on his back. He was the first to really believe in what they had in pitching and how solid they could be. He made them a champion. And for him to die suddenly and at such a young age was terrible. So thank you for noting that, Robert. Something that totally slipped my mind last week.
Not a problem.
All right. Robert, Marty, any memories of Gil that stand out in your head? Anything you want to know?
First of all, I just want to say that I was not here in 1969. I was elsewhere. I was not in the United States. So
I remember.
I missed the whole freaking year, basically. I heard what I could hear on the radio with a 12-hour time difference.
Not much difference than living in California and what I got of the Mets that year. We lose sight of the fact that in those days it was very difficult wherever you were, especially Marty in Vietnam, to follow one's team if you didn't live in the city. We're in an age of the internet, media, streaming this, streaming that, games on all over.
Right.
It wasn't that way.
We did have Armed Forces Radio, and they did broadcast sports events. Usually when they're playing at night, we would hear it in the morning, or during I guess it was in the morning when we were just getting up, getting going to work, whatever we were doing. And like the national games were usually, ESPN. Well, there wasn't ESPN at the time. Whatever it was, NBC. That did the national
game of the week.
Right. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So we did hear that. But as far as all the stuff that was going on day to day, that was the one thing I missed. Although I did have a subscription that came to me of the Long Island Star Journal. Remember that newspaper?
Great paper.
Yes. I think. Yeah. Well,
Jack Lang was the head writer for that.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And my parents had a subscription sent to me, so sometimes I'd get like 4 or 5 newspapers at once, and they were like 2 weeks behind, but read all the stuff I could at the time. But the one thing the one thing that stands out, of course, was that Cleon Jones thing in left field, where he pulled him out of the game.
He went out and got him.
And
remember that, Robert?
Yes, I do.
Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, it was as I remember correctly, it was a doubleheader against the Houston Astros. It had been rainy. Forget what day of the week it was. Ball was hit out to left field, and Cleon sort of, kind of gingerly went after it rather than run after it. Gil called time after the play was over with his hands in his back pockets and slowly walked out to left field. And everybody was bated breath trying to see what was going to happen. He went out there. Cleon had his head down. Gil said a couple of words to him. Gil turned around. Cleon walked alongside of him, and back to the dugout they went. Of course, in the papers the next day, everybody said that Gil pulled him because he didn't hustle and stuff like that. But Cleon, many years later, and of course Gil was already dead by this time, claimed that he had hurt himself, and Gil came out, and they talked for a couple of minutes, and Cleon said, the footing was bad, and he was concerned of hurting himself again, and Gil took him out of the game. So we'll leave that to your discretion as to what you thought really happened.
Well, I wonder what the reporters asked Gil the next day. It would be interesting to hear if Gil had mentioned anything about the footing and an injury.
All I can remember, and I will go back and look at some of the old papers, I have a subscription, was Gil mentioned something about the footing being bad, and that he went out and he didn't think Cleon was handling the turf ball that well, and he decided to take him out at that time. And that was basically it. After that, he kind of stonewalled the reporters.
Okay, well, he didn't lose his clubhouse over anything like that.
Oh,
sometimes you do something and you turn the team against you because you do air dirty laundry in the public and what have you.
There was a story about Gil, Ralph, that one day he walked into the clubhouse and he held a meeting, and he said, "I'm not going to mention any names, but I know somebody was out late last night, well past curfew, and I expect an envelope with $25 in it on my desk after the game, no questions asked." After the game, he walked in, and there were 12 envelopes on his desk.
That's great.
Yeah, I can remember how Casey Stengel would find out, reading about how Casey Stengel would find out about who the late-nighters were. What he'd do is he'd get the bellhop or the guy that ran the elevators. He'd give him a baseball, and these guys would come in after curfew, and the bellhop would have him sign the ball and give it to Casey the next day. So that's how we found out that who it was that was. This is way back with the Yankees. This isn't with the Mets. Wouldn't matter if the Mets stayed out late at night. The Mets under Casey, they're not going to lose much just by being out. There wasn't much to lose. Rest in peace, Gil Hodges. What comes to mind is the most embarrassing thing that ever happened as a Met fan for me, and there have been a number of them. This is when at Gil's funeral they announced that Yogi Berra was going to take over as the manager. They figured they had everybody, all the press was there, and rather than go through it again, that was their thinking, they might as well have the press announce it right there. I thought that was pretty classless then, and I think it's pretty classless in retrospect. Not much they could have done to top that, except they gave us the permanent embarrassment of the Wilpons. So, there you go.
We have to remember M. Donald Grant was no saint either.
Oh, wow. What he did with Seaver and really King breaking the heart of the franchise, that was crazy.
Midnight Massacre.
Yeah. And I've been reading the big part that Dick Young played in all of that.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that, Robert?
Yes, I am. Dick Young had it in for Seaver. Not really sure why, but he went after Seaver with both barrels, basically talking to M. Donald Grant, talking to a lot of different people. He basically ran Seaver out of town, to get down to the truth of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so was one of the greatest sports writers ever. I heard a story from who was it? My God, it was Hal Bach, who told me that the first reporter to ever come into a clubhouse back in the day, they weren't interviewed after the game. And Dick Young broke that mold and either was given access or demanded access to a clubhouse after the game to get direct quotes. So he was a pioneer. He was fun to read growing up as a kid. That's one of the first guys you'd go to read in the news in the morning. But he did, as you say, Robert, have it in for Seaver, and he was just a management kind of guy. And turns out, I think he was grooming his son or his nephew for a job with the news or with the Mets, and don't remember the full story about that, but there was some nepotism involved there.
Yeah. Well, with Seaver, too, we have to remember he was really at the forefront of the modern-day ball player, more of a businessman. He carried an attaché case. He wasn't your typical, guy from the down south who, didn't have a college education. He had a college education. He went to USC. And I don't think Young really appreciated the new breed of ball player. And he saw in Tom Seaver that he was at the forefront of that.
Right, and he was one of those people that really forced free agency. He was very big in the union, and what a classy guy. He's proud to have him as he's like our Stan Musial, if you will. And that reminds me, there's no statue in front of the stadium.
Where's our statue?
But there's a statue of Jackie Robinson. I keep saying, I don't know if I said this recently on this show, there should be a statue of Jackie Robinson on every street corner in Brooklyn, on every street corner anywhere in the United States. It'd be great, but not in front of City Park, not in front of City Field. It's for the Mets, and that it looks just like Ebbets Field is understandable on some levels, but don't put Jackie's statue out there and not Gil's, not Tom's.
Well, they have that whole section, the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. Yes, when you come into the ballpark. So,
you can make a case. You could have a Jackie Robinson Rotunda in every ballpark in the country. I understand that. But at the exclusion of your own heroes, and we've had precious few in 50 years.
Well, Fred Wilpon was a big Jackie Robinson fan and Brooklyn Dodger fan. So
yes, he was.
I understand that.
That's part of the reasoning, I'm sure.
But if you look at it this way, Mrs. Whitney was not only a big Giant fan, she sat on the board of the New York Giants and was the only dissenting voter when
Mrs.
Horace wanted them to move. Didn't stop her from seeing the logic of bringing in 11 former Dodgers or whatever, the Charlie Neals, the Don Simmers, the Gil Hodges himself, who was clearly hurt at that point. So Wilpon could have looked at the overall picture and, put a section of the ballpark, honoring Jackie. It'd be great. But do honor Seaver. Do honor Gil Hodges. And it's not too late for that. The fans should and could rise up and say, "Hey, we'll strike a game." How about if the fans just didn't give them parking, didn't give them beer money, didn't give them hat money and jackets and shirts, and didn't give them any money one day? Nobody showed up one day a year, and they'd list their grievances. It's Fans Day. This is why we're doing this. This is why we're pissed off. I'd be a good union baby.
Nice, but it'll never happen.
No, it won't happen. A lot of things won't happen in my dreams. But I've been dreaming about the Mets. 7-1 start. Marty Rose, what do you attribute it to other than the improved bullpen?
Got a healthy starting rotation. You've got timely hitting. They've been showing very timely hitting. And one thing that's very noticeable is when the other team scores, they've come right back and scored themselves several times already this year. And they're getting good play out of pretty much everybody. Everybody's been healthy. Gonzo with the grand slam the other day, and Frazier's been very solid. I don't think you can just say it's one thing or another. It's a combination of everything's been going well. I don't want to jinx anything, but
no, there will be days when it won't go all that well. Plenty of them, I'm sure.
No, true, but everything has been doing. Everybody's doing what you expect or better. You could go right down the lineup. Cabrera.
I like Rosario in the field. I think he makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I like this pitcher hitting eighth business. If you're going to bat Cespedes second, this way you're still going to have two guys. Can get two guys on base ahead of him by having Rosario ninth and Conforto first. So that works out pretty well actually.
Right. Now we have Miami coming up now.
We're ahead 3-0 tonight so far.
Yeah, the fifth inning.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
This is Monday night, the 9th of April,
right.
2018.
The game's not on here. I don't understand why the game's not on here. Is it on? Is the game on by you, Robert?
Yeah.
Is it on TV?
Yeah. But are you watching it on the Miami? You get Miami? Miami.
I don't get the Miami channel, but last year they were on one of the Fox channels, Fox Sun, or I think the Tampa Bay game I'm getting here today. But for
Tampa
some
Bay's
reason,
on Fox Sun, and the Marlins are on Fox Sports.
Well, I searched high and low for it, and I couldn't come up with it. And of course, it's blacked out on MLB.TV. So, so I was listening to Howie before I called in.
You get the message. You get that the Marlins blocked out on MLB TV?
Yes.
See, I don't, and I'm closer than you are.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand that.
I get blocked out for the Rays, of course.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I don't get blacked out for the Marlins.
Yeah, I don't quite understand their reasoning there. But
yeah.
Hey, Marty, I looked at Good Morning America or something. They had a weather flash. did you guys have another storm last night?
We had a little bit of rain, but there was a big storm that missed us in Jacksonville.
Okay.
It missed us. I believe it went, it stayed to the south of us.
No, I'm talking about a cold snap.
Oh, cold.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, depends what you consider cold. It is definitely below what it should be here.
Okay.
Saying tomorrow morning could be in the upper 40s, but in the daytime it's still upper 60s, low 70s. So yeah, it's been odd. It's been definitely colder than it should be here for April. They've been saying that on the local TV quite a bit. So, okay. But I mean, it's crazy all over the place. It was snowed in Chicago today. I think the Yankees are playing in Boston tonight. It must be in the 30s there. It's ridiculous.
I've been watching Boston play Tampa a bunch of times on MLB Network. Mm-hmm. These guys wear these face garbs.
They were wearing it in Washington last night.
Yeah.
Right. It looks like how could they get warm enough to play baseball? A skilled game. You could see it in football, but every little movement is changes everything.
Especially the pitchers. You wonder how they can stand out there and get a grip on them.
The fielders backing them up. How, especially the slow plodding pitchers that take all the time on the mound that they do. So it is crazy. Robert, your impressions, and I want to know flat out if you think they could keep it going, health notwithstanding.
Okay, can they keep it going? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it is, although everybody's contributing right now, if you look at their numbers, nobody's really hitting out of their heads. Nobody's way above what they normally hit. In fact, for the most part, they're not hitting their averages at this point, but they're getting very timely hitting. I think Cespedes was at 220, Frazier was at 208, stuff like that. But they're getting the hits with runners in scoring position, and that's what you want to see.
Absolutely.
So, yes, I absolutely think that they can keep this going, as long as there's no...
Marty, do you concur?
Yeah, a lot of two-out clutch hits as well. So,
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And with Conforto coming back, they seem very deep suddenly in the outfield. Lagares went a whole week without going on the DL.
And he's been hitting very well. And not to mention that throw he made.
Throw was incredible, yeah.
On the fly from center field to throw that guy out. My goodness.
Yep.
So.
And the tag was great too, if I remember that play.
Yeah. It was.
He had to dive for to make the tag. Can't close the show. This has nothing to do with the Mets. We have to make some note of the California Angels getting this kid from Japan. And I can't even pronounce Cespedes, so I'm not going to try to pronounce his name.
Not going to try to pronounce Tony?
Yeah. Unbelievable. I watched him pitch yesterday. He took a perfect game into the seventh inning.
Yeah.
And he is so effortless, and he throws his fastball with the exact same delivery as his slower pitches, his what do they call it, the split finger fastball that just drops. He's a combination of Maddox and Johnson. He's just fast as hell, and he looks great. So he's noteworthy, to say nothing of his hitting.
Yeah.
I've always been an admirer of two-sport athletes, and basically, if you can make the major leagues as a hitter and as a pitcher, you're a two-sport athlete. Let's put it that way. I don't know what else. He could be a great basketball player too, and we may never know about it. But he has a demeanor where he doesn't change expression. He doesn't. He just looks like the second coming of somebody, and it's a pleasure to watch somebody bring, what with change of culture and everything else. It's interesting for baseball.
Yes, and
sure.
then when you consider him coming out of spring training, and Angels fans, and I have a couple of friends that are Angels fans who were saying what a terrible move it was, and that they need to send them back to the minor leagues. And in 10 days, they've changed their tune 180 degrees.
Yep.
Which brings us to another question. How can one quantify the success or failure of a player or a team for that matter, in spring training? And has there ever been publication or articles that can lead one to project spring training successes over the course of a season?
No.
That's just a rhetorical question to you guys.
Yeah. Well,
I think not.
there's this old saying, and it may have come from Branch Rickey, you don't believe what you see in April or September. Okay, because you have guys coming up in April who are great and then they disappear, and you have guys coming up in September that do great and you never see them again. So,
especially not March.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And the only thing is, in March, you like to see the kids, and you see them a lot. You like to see the kids that are trying to make the team, see what you got down on the farm a little bit. That's what I like to see when I watch the spring games, because normally if the guys are healthy, they're going to do what the back of their baseball card says they do, So.
Oh, and we can't forget this either, Ralph. A mention of Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow.
Yeah, I will give him credit if he turns around and proves me wrong. I think it would be pretty cool to have a former Jet and a former Met, and a Met. He'll be a former Met someday soon. With even one game playing in the majors, that's it's pretty cool. I'll give him credit.
But he's absolutely.
I don't think it's going to happen. He's 30 years old.
Yeah, he's great for the minor leagues, though. Okay, on a 30-degree night in Binghamton, New York, the ballpark was sold out to see him.
Right, and if that brings fans and makes fans, one kid will come and like the experience of being out. I'm all for it. That's cool. However, if he's taking up the spot of a legitimate prospect along the way, I don't know if it's worth it just for a standpoint of the ball club, success on the field.
They want to bring him up in September. Somebody has to get dropped from the 40-man roster.
Exactly.
On it. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, you may have ended up dropping that guy anyway, but maybe the guy, had you kept him, could have played out and suddenly, or advanced, or, it's all a matter of, does he deserve it as a player, and is it not just business? I'm beginning to see if he brings in X number of dollars for the affiliates, it helps everybody. It sells the Binghamton Mets. You see that around Binghamton. You see a kid in a T-shirt, that kind of thing. It all helps. It'll help baseball. But like I say, at what price glory? And you may be reading about some guy who's cut off that 40-man roster, who goes on to star for somebody else someday, and that may be he may be a trivia question in a negative standpoint.
Well, the fact that they did not bring him up last year, and now last year we know was a disaster. Now would have been the time to bring him up if you were going to bring him up. They did not do that. They brought up the kids instead, and I thought that showed a lot on Alderson's part because
it did, but it would have offended. He probably had the good sense to know it would have offended a true Met fan's sensibility, a true baseball fan's sensibility. Yeah, play your dog and pony show in the minors. I'm all for that at this point.
Well, look, what did he hit in single A?
As long as he's showing something.
He hardly hit anything in single A. What do you think he's going to hit in double A for a whole season?
I know, and
but that's more than making his paycheck up. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
he's bringing in the bucks. No question about that. And just that we're talking about it says something. That he's got enough attention going for him, and it's not like he's a good human being. Let's put it that way. Whatever your religious beliefs are, you got to like his family type attitude, and
very charitable. Gives his time to a lot of causes. He's very popular that way. Absolutely.
And from that standpoint, as a kid, if he encourages baseball fans, kids, to enjoy the game, it'll be well worth it. And so I've mellowed a little bit on that standpoint, only because, as Robert said, they didn't cop out and bring him up for the Bucks. He would have put some fannies in the seats, no question about that. But it would have left a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and he's smart enough not to do it. Let's give him, while we're thinking about Sandy Alderson, a hell of a lot of credit, not only for putting it together at this point, so early in the season. We're all giddy. We're going to have our ups and downs all through the year. He's given us a contender yet again for 3 out of the last 4 years, and injuries are as we see now, are the only things that kept them from being a contender for the last year and a half. And getting the Bucks out of the Wilpons just to sign Cespedes to get the ball rolling. He had the good sense to bring Bruce back. To sign Fraser, to take a chance on Gonzalez, not to panic and maybe dump Harvey like they could have done. So give him my hats off as well. Do you guys concur?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay. Good show tonight, guys.
Okay. Good enough.
I enjoy your company, as usual. And we'll do it again, same time, same bat channel next week.
Sounds good.
Have a good week, guys.
Let's hope for 5-1. How about that? That'd be nice between now and then.
All right.
All right.
Very nice.
That puts us at 12-2. We'll have a block party.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thank you, guys. Robert Cole, Marty Rose. I'm Ralph Tycho, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. New York Mets, past, present, future. Adios, everybody.
Good night.